Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. How are people?
Alhamdulillah, Sheikh. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah fi kulli hal. Okay. Do people have any questions from the last session? As inshallah, we're going to continue where we left off. But if there are any questions, I'll take them now. If not, we'll make a start, inshallah. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi. We were talking about, uh, what breaks wudu, and we ended with, what causes wudu, because what breaks wudu and the causes that break wudu, and we finished with sleep. Okay, we move on to what is intoxication, um, fainting, and madness. What the Again, we're following how Sidi Ibn Ashir has arranged the poem, so it's not uh, as you would like to teach it, but again, what is not one of the causes. Intoxication, a fainting spell, uh, a spade of uh, madness will break wudu. So something that takes away your intellectual capacity um, automatically breaks your wudu straight away. And it doesn't matter, if this is, again, sleep falls into it, fainting spell, intoxication, and a period of madness. Again, this is the same with the Risala of Abu Zayd al-Qayrawani, rahmatullah alayh. There's no difference Sidi Meyara is making between intoxication and a fainting spell, be it, uh, a long one or not. And there's no difference made um, in a period of madness, or if it's certain people have these uh, what do they call them? Used to be called schizophrenia. Now I think people call them a personality disorder. So if someone has uh, no, what's it called? When you want uh, the words there, but I can't bring it to my an epileptic fit. That's what I was looking for. So a madness and a fit of epilepsy, it's the same. It will break your wudu. As to what wadi is, wadi, according to the Risala of Abu Zayd al-Qayrawani, is a white, thick liquid that comes after you've urinated, and it obligates what urinate would obligate. It would break your wudu. Um, Again, I think that might be called prostatic fluid, but I'm not sure. But in Arabic, it's called al-wadi. Okay, we move on to, again, this would be also is a continuation of causes. This is touching and kissing. So with the touch, we're talking about skin to skin touch. Um, and with the kiss, again, is the lips on the face or somewhere else. Okay. How it's first, the touch. The touch itself is, if you arousal, and we're talking about, normal arousal, then it will break wudu. Just as, the kissing will break wudu. So it's conditional, that the wudu, so it's what either you find arousal, meaning that you're aroused, that you, if you desire it or not. If you desire it and there is arousal, it does break wudu. So the understanding is that, the touch, if you do not find that you are aroused by the touch, it does not break wudu. And if you find that the touch does there is arousal, then it does break wudu. What's meant by, normal arousal, we're talking about adults. Where you find that it's unnormal, this is where adults are aroused by, touching children, what in English we call pedophiles. Um, uh, the text, Sidi Meyara says, this does not break wudu because it's abnormal. It's not, normal arousal. If someone does this, then, Sidi Mayara considers them fasik. It is something that, this kind of arousal is forbidden. And it will break his wudu if he intends to be aroused or does not intend to be aroused. So this whole thing of, being aroused by minors, this is something that is seen as abnormal. No, we're Saifuddin, we're just talking about arousal. So where there is physical touch, and we're talking about the hand touching, the opposite sex, if you intend to be aroused and the touch arouses you, then your wudu breaks. If there is accidental touch where there is no intention, the wudu has not broken. Yeah. Now, when you've got, these what the English word for them is pedophiles, where, people get aroused by minors. Again, this is a sign of fisk. This kind of arousal is haram. This will, if they intend it or not intend it, if they are aroused, their wudu will break. As to kissing, again, this, if the intention is here, depends on, if for the kiss thing, there's something that needs to be understood. There's a culture, especially, where French people, where France has colonized Muslim countries. So there's this culture, again, I might be biased because it's something you could say is of Arab culture, where, when they meet, they kiss each other. And the cultural context needs to be kept in mind. So you find, for instance, in South Asia, when you go and greet an elder, they will put their hand on your head. Doesn't matter, if it is a male or female. Now, that would never happen in the Arab world. But in the Arab world, you'll find that when they greet each other, they'll either kiss them on the cheek or they'll kiss their hands. Now, you've got to keep the cultural context in mind. So there's one category of kissing where the mashhur opinion is that automatically it breaks wudu. So if you kiss your wife on the lips, doesn't matter if there is arousal or no arousal, it will break your wudu. Why? Because what it leads to. And so for instance, in the UK, with people who have been in this country for a long time, but the English, when they leave their house, they will kiss their wife on the cheek. Again, that will not break wudu. If they kiss them on the lips, it will break wudu. So again, with kissing, the cultural context needs to be kept in mind. And to end this paragraph, the quote from the Mudawwana al-Kubra of is that if you kiss them on other than the lips, it does not break wudu. So that's the clear-cut opinion. So if you kiss your wife on the cheek, it will not break wudu. And the mashhur is if you kiss them on the lips, it will break wudu. Okay. Yes, Zakaria.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
What is the case for when, let's say, you kiss your mother as for respect, for like on the hand or on the forehead?
As I said before, it's the cultural context needs to be kept in mind. It does not. So people that you can't marry, your mahram, if you kiss them on the head, cheek, hands, it does not break wudu.
Barakallahu fik.
Wa iyyakum. There is something that some of the shuyukh in Sudan do is if a woman wants, they will the women will come and they will actually the scarf or chadar or something, they will cover their hand with it, so they will just touch the sheikh. And again, it's something that the Shafis, because that with the Shafi'ah that doesn't matter how it breaks wudu anyway if a woman even accidentally take. But if there is a barrier, like a gloves or a thobe or something, a cloth, it doesn't break wudu. The next point, again, is a bit graphic, so excuse me. Well, I shouldn't I shouldn't be saying this, but anyway, because we're all mature. This is and there's no haya in the deen. This is when a woman plays with herself, with her genitals, is a cause. It does not break wudu, because don't do qiyas, don't do analogy on with the men, because if the men touch their penis gland with the palm of their hands, it will break wudu, desire or no desire. But with women, you can't do analogy on it because there's no nas, there's no text to make it. So if they play with their genitals, it does not break wudu. But what iltaf al-imra means is that she inserts her fingers in her the lips of genitals. But what's understood is that, if she rubs her genitals, it does not break wudu. Yeah? If she inserts her fingers inside, it will break wudu. Yes, Saifuddin.
What if there is emission of fluid from arousal?
Again, if she does ejaculate, then that will break wudu anyway.
I meant as in, it's not ejaculation, but there's a certain fluid, like similar to men. We call it madhi. And apparently the women have this as well.
I'm not familiar with it. I know that, preseminal fluid, there's a discharge by men. With a woman, playing with herself, if there's a discharge, I'm not sure. If it does, if there is, sometimes they feel some kind of moisture. As long as there's no discharge, it doesn't break wudu. Go on, Saifuddin.
No, yeah, I think that makes sense. So I think the other question that I wanted to ask is, are all emissions impure or not just impure?
There's someone that, I have benefited from immensely. Sayyid Abdul Aziz bin Siddiq al-Ghumari, rahmatullah alayhi. He was, one of the last great huffaz of hadith of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. He passed away in 1997. And he has a small work. It's called Ma Yajuz wa Ma La Yajuz fi Hayat al-Zawjiyah. Is what is permitted and what is not permitted in, marital life. And it's a book he ended up authoring because he used to be in Belgium. He used to be the Imam of the Islamic Center there. And when he returned, because what happens in Europe is that, in the summer holidays, a lot of the Algerians and Moroccans, they all go back to Algeria. And so the women used to write to him, look, my man wants to do this and my man says this. And he authored that work, what is permitted and not permitted. So there was this issue on oral sex, and there is an opinion that, the discharge of a woman is not najas. And again, it's, a opinion. It's not, the well-known. Does that help?
That wasn't really the question I asked, but I'm sure the rest of the brothers would have benefited from it. My point was that I believe in the Shafi'i school they don't consider.
You mean semen?
Yeah.
With us, it's a clear cut. Urine is najas. There isn't a second opinion on this. So and it's the same with the semen of women. And what you find is that it does not come out from a different passage, because the passage is the same. The well-known opinion within the school is that it is najas.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We move on to touching, the male genital. Again, it's a cause. It is not something that breaks wudu straight away. So if you touch it, and the well-known opinion is you touch it with the palm of your hand, and also the palm of the inside of the thumb and the inside of your fingers, and the side of your fingers. It breaks wudu. If you touch it, by the back of your hand, it does not break wudu. And there's no difference of opinion if, touching it, if you're aroused or not aroused. If you sort it or not sort it, it breaks wudu, absolutely. And if you touch it or scratch it, if you've got, a pair of pants on, or, your trousers or salwar or whatever you're wearing, as long as there's a barrier, it doesn't, that does not apply. That ruling does not apply. It only applies to skin contact. Are we okay? Yes, Bilal. Wa alaikum assalam. There is an opinion, but from the Andalusi scholars who applied, the same thinking as of touching, a woman. But again, that's not the mashhur. The mashhur is if there is skin to skin contact. Yeah? If there is skin to skin contact, wudu breaks. Yes, Bilal. Bilal? Oh, okay. Fine. And it doesn't matter if the barrier, your cloth, is thin or thick, because the hukm only applies to skin to skin. Okay. The next point, again, this, when I first came across it, says, why would it, sorry, it's the next one. It's the next, it's the one after this. Shak, doubt in wudu. I want to share with you, there's a qaida, there's a rule, and the rule is based on, a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. By the way, if any of you, have time to memorize, or, you would like to memorize, then the Arba'in of Imam Nawawi is the best text to begin with. And one of the reasons people don't usually share this or are not aware of it, one of the reasons why Imam Nawawi compiled them, yes, in the introduction he says that, if you memorize 40 hadith, you'll end up in Jannah. But later scholarship found that, those 40 hadith are, the Juwami al-Kalim of the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam had this, it's a miracle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He could reduce, a very complex problem in just a couple of words. He would reduce the answer in just a couple of words. So one of them is da' ma yuribuka ila ma la yuribuk, because the next point we're covering is if you've got doubt. So the rule for life in everything is if you're in doubt, go to where there is no doubt. That is the simplest rule, and it's based on the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Da' ma yuribuka ila ma la yuribuk. So if you have wudu and you're in doubt, do I have wudu or not? The scenario is you've done wudu, now you're not sure if you broke it or not. So what you will do is do wudu. So you will always go to certainty. You will not, remain in shak. You will not remain in doubt. So that's the rule. Because da' ma yuribuka ila ma la yuribuk. So where there's raib, where there is doubt, go to where there is no doubt. So you must always, because you know the deen, it always looks at certainty. You know this 50-50 and 60-60. The simplest, because you know the deen is simple, Bilal. The deen is simple. Ad-deenu yusr. So the best way to get out of doubt is go and do wudu. That's the best way. Because yes, there is, you know, amount of certainty. It's like, you know, when we go to Kitabu Salat, they will look at what you are certain with. So you're in doubt if you've prayed the third rakat or not, but you're certain you've prayed 2 rakats. Yeah? So you'll get up and begin with the third rakat. And it's the same with wudu. Don't go into it practically, don't go into, I've got 60% doubt, I've got wudu, but you know, there's doubt of 40%. You'll still have to do wudu. Yeah? So whatever amount of doubt you have is go to certainty. Just go and do wudu. Then you are certain. That's the simplest formula. Yes, Tahmiz.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam.
I had a couple of questions. The first one related to regarding pleasure. Is there like a specific thing that, okay, as soon as this happens, you've reached pleasure, therefore you have to do wudu, or is it subjective?
What it is that, you know, it's very easy with the men, because you know we're men. I couldn't tell you how a woman feels when she's aroused. Yeah, how men usually when they're aroused is that, you know, their member becomes erect.
Okay, and the second one was in regards to doubt. Is there a difference when someone has, say, waswasa from beforehand?
If they suffer from, you know, OCD, if because you know waswasa is another word for OCD. First, my advice is they should go and seek professional help. Second, from a fiqh point of view, is they should do wudu and just pray.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you're suffering from waswasa, don't do wudu beforehand. Always, you know, when you want to pray, do wudu and pray straight away.
Okay. Is that I guess we'll cover this later on. But is that the same in regards to salah as well, whether you prayed 2 rakats?
Again, with the prayer, the advice, you know, with this is a 30-year-old advice that I was advised by Sidi Jamal, alhamdulillah, he's still alive in Morocco. He said, take your time doing wudu. Yeah? Take your time doing wudu, and when you pray, don't take too long. Pray it quickly. Why? There's less time for your mind to wander. So Fatiha is an obligation. Then don't read too long surahs. Read, you know, medium. And then the mind has less time to wander. Because all the doubts that we end up with is we're not focused in our ibadah, especially prayer.
Thank you, Sheikh.
Okay. Next. The next is, you know, as I began a couple of minutes ago, that, you know, it always made me smile, because, you know, why would it matter if, you know, you've got wudu or not? You know, kufr is kufr. But the scenario is this, that you're a Muslim who has wudu, then you've apostatized. And after that, you've come back into the deen. So the question is, do you still have wudu? So come on, let's hear your answers. What do you think? Come on, someone have a go. Shall I? The scenario is you've done wudu, you're a Muslim, then you say or do something that takes you out of the deen of Islam. Yeah? Then you come back into the deen of Islam. So the question now is, have you still got wudu? Okay, Bilal says no. Anybody else?
I think no.
No? Okay, we got 2 no's. No one want to stick their head out and say yes? Okay. Kufr wipes out everything that you've done before, so you haven't got wudu. So when you come back into the deen, you've got to do wudu. Yeah. So the mashhur position is that when someone commits apostatizes and then they come back, they're under obligation to do wudu. As to should they do ghusl or not, there are 2 opinions. That one says yes and the other says no. Usually, the state of it's like, I don't know if you're familiar with that. The Maliki opinion is that we don't allow the non-Muslims into masajids. It's not like the Hanafis. It's like in the UK, Birmingham Central Mosque, for Jummah, they will let non-Muslims into the mosque to let them experience what prayer. While from a Maliki point of view, we do not let any non-Muslim into the mosque. Does anybody know the reason why?
Is it because there's the ayah in the Quran?
Uh,
Surah Tawbah.
yes, but there you go. Bilal's got it right. That it's not. They're in the state of Junud. It's like usually non-Muslims object that the Malikis don't allow non-Muslims into mosques. We turn around and say we don't even allow Muslims in that state of ritual impurity. So Bilal, sorry, it's not spiritual impurity, it's physical. When they say the Shahada, they become spiritually pure, but they still have to ritually purify themselves. Yeah. Okay. The next 2 verses are to do with personal hygiene. Verse 76 is وَيَجُوا اسْتِبْرَاءِ الْأَخْبَثَيْنِ مَا صَلْتَ وَانْتَرِ ذَكَرَ وَشَدَّ دَعَ. Where's the... Okay. 76. It is obligatory to free the 2 places of filth of urine and excrement, and to apply pressure to the penis and shake it, but not excessively. This again, I said, is to do with personal hygiene. It's an obligation to, clean after you've defecated or urinated. It's a wajib. As to, the applying pressure and shaking it, that again depends on your age. When you're young, the bladder, empties a lot quicker, unless you've got some ailment. But again, you've got to be sure that there is no feces left in the back passage, and there's no urine left in the front passage. That's the obligation. And then to clean them. How you clean them, that's the next line of the poem. But here is just common sense. Common sense. You know, some people will say that you've got to, after you've urinated, walk 40 steps, and some people will say pull it and shake it. And there's something that, you know, people have grown old with. We started this journey, you know, when we were in our early 20s, and we call it turbaning it. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Have you ever heard of that word? You just wrap some tissue round it to make sure that, you know, there's no drops falling out, because you don't. And practically, it's very helpful. When you're home, it's a different story. But, you know, if you're at work, study, uni, whatever, or if you're on a journey, you're not under obligation, you know, to wash it. This is the thing, we'll come to it in a minute. The obligation is to, you know, free. There shouldn't be any urine or feces. Yeah. What you wash with and what you wipe with is, inshallah, we'll come to it. But again, every person knows their body better than anyone else. Yeah. So just make sure that there is no feces left in the back passage, and there is no urine left in the front passage. If you know, coming to verse 77, it is permitted to use stones to clean urine from the penis and to clean oneself of excrement, as long as it does not spread excessively. Now, this again boils down to where you are, because, you know, at work, at uni, college, school, there's no water. Whatever, you know, in our old text you find the use of stones, it should be understood in the modern context of a tissue, you know, toilet tissue. As long as, again, this coming at the end of wudu does not, there is no correlation of, you know, cleaning yourself after, you know, defecating, urinating. It's not part of wudu. This is just personal hygiene. It has no correlation to wudu whatsoever. Because, you know, in Hanafi fiqh, I remember in my early days that, you know, the mosque I used to go to was, you know, Tabligh Jamaat mosque, and they were really into, you got to do stinja before you do wudu. There is no correlation to, you know, washing yourself, I mean, washing your privates to wudu. It's when you defecate or when you urinate, that's when you need to make sure that there's no urine, there's no feces, and then wipe it with a tissue, wash it, and then wipe it again. That's the simple thing that needs to be understood. Yes, Zakaria.
So after a deep sleep, you don't need to do istinja before you do wudu.
If you need to do wudu, as I said, stinja has no correlation to wudu. Yeah.
Right.
If you feel that, you know, you might have wet yourself, then you need to check your clothes.
Right.
Yeah. If they are wet, then you need to, you know, wash your genitals and change your clothes. But there is no correlation to doing stinja or istibra or istijmar. I mean, istijmar in stinja is after you've got defecated or urinated. So it's literally wiping the feces off, washing it, then drying it again in the same if you urinated. Those are issues and matters of personal hygiene. They are not, anything that is related to wudu.
Barakallahu fiqh.
Yeah. And just from a knowledge point of view, the only people who do attach it to wudu are, the Zaydiyya, which is, one of the oldest branches of the Shia. Majority of them, you'll find them. Alhamdulillah, we've got some in Birmingham, and majority of them exist from the Yemen. Yes, Tahmiz.
Sheikh, when a person wraps their penis after urinating, if they decide to make wudu and then pray, is the salah counting?
No, why you would wrap it? Why you would wrap it is because you're out and about. You don't want, if there is any urine in the passage left, it doesn't soil your underwear. Yeah.
Okay.
So when you're going to do wudu, you will remove the cloth, wash it, and then do wudu. It's just practical. If you're out and about, you're not sure if all of it has come out, then just wrapping some tissue around the head of it won't do you any harm. It'll stop the doubt being there. Has it soiled my underwear or not? Yeah, because the thing is, if you're at uni or at work and you go to the toilet, there's no water, tissue will suffice. It's your choice. If there's no water, then tissue will suffice. So when you are in a mosque or at home, then you would do wash yourself. As long as there's no feces or urine left on your person. Yeah, because what you've got to understand is that the hukam here, the ruling is, it's an obligation to make sure there is no feces in the back passage. And if it's a very wet stool you've passed, you've just got to make sure that the mouth of the anus isn't, it's not feces is not stuck to it. So tissue will do it. So if you're driving, you're at uni, college, school, or even at the service station, what I do is, because sometimes you have to, I take about half of the roll down and put it on the seat, and then I'll sit on it, because that's more important, because these buggers, they stand and urinate, so you don't know if it's clean or not, and there ain't any stuff there that you can wipe it with. So put some tissue out, sit on it, urinate, clean yourself, and afterwards, the best way to check if it is, look at the tissue. If it's coming back clean, it's not soiled, that the back passage is clean. And then with the front, if you're sure there's no urine, then that's fine. Otherwise, just wrap something around it. Get on with life, inshallah.
Thank you.
Oh yeah. Any questions on wudu? What we've just covered, is istibra, istinja, istijmar, anything, because we're done with wudu. Yes, Zakaria.
This is more like a question of advice. But let's say you've used the bathroom and you want to do wudu and pray. Do you recommend waiting a bit after using the bathroom to make sure everything's come out in terms of urine, then doing wudu, then praying? Or
okay, usually you'll find the advice is always wait Why? Because sometimes there's always something trapped, unless you know that there's nothing there. But the advice is, because what you've got to understand is that our deen has OCD about hygiene.
Mm.
Does that make sense? Because everything about our deen, it's like after we eat, we'll wash our hands and do mudmud, just to make sure that the taste of the smell on the hands is not there, the taste in your mouth is not there. When we pray, we will wash ourselves. If we physically if we will get a wet dream, or you've had intercourse with your partner, you will have to take a ghusl, which we're going to cover in a minute. Even our clothes, we make sure that our underwear is not soiled, so on and so forth. Even our food, you know the reason why we slaughter the animal?
To remove the blood, right?
Yeah, again, hygiene. It needs to be clean, tahir. It needs to be tayyib.
Barakallahu feek.
But again, for Zachariah, where's your parents? Which country are your parents from?
Algeria.
Algeria. When was the last time you were there?
Maybe like 3 years ago.
Can you imagine, recall, one of the ancient mosques having toilets inside the mosque?
Yes, it's not really a modern toilet.
No, they don't have toilets.
It's like
The ancient mosques
it's a
don't
hole in
have
the ground,
toilets.
right?
No, they have them across the road. They're always across the road. You go to the toilet, and then you come back into the mosque and you do wudu. So you've already walked.
Shukran.
Okay. If no one has any more questions on wudu, we'll move on to ghusl, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi. This is the section on the fara'id of ghusl, verses 78, 79, and 80. So I'm not going to read the translation because most of you have got that. I'm going to just move on to the fara'id of ghusl. So there are 4 fara'id of ghusl. 4. The first of them is niyyah, intention. I think we've already talked about intention with wudu is you need to know what you are doing. So you need to be present. You need to know exactly what you are doing. And this is when you begin the ghusl. And there isn't, a second opinion on this. There's a general unanimity of our scholarship that, it's a fard. And the intention you'll make is to remove, major impurity, raf al-hadas al-akbar. That's if it's from Junub. And that's the category we're looking at. When exactly you will make the intention is usually either before you start washing your genitals or whatever your body has been soiled, or which is the recommendation. Okay. The second obligation is to do it all in one go, so it's not broken. You don't stop and start. It means that you begin washing, and you wash the whole of your body, one limb after another, till you complete it. Again, the obligation is to wash each limb once only. Just as in wudu, the obligation is only to wash once. Yes, Zakaria.
Sorry, Sheikh, I think someone typed a question in the chat about the intention, and I've got a question after that.
Okay,
So,
let me see. Okay, Bilal. Generally, no, because the mahlun niyyah is al-qalb, the place of the intention. For any intention is always the qalb, the heart. So again, certain people who suffer from OCD, it might help them to articulate it. If you do articulate it, there's no harm, but it's not from the obligatory obligation of intention to say it out loud. Yes, Zakaria.
let's say on Friday, and I think it's just Sunnah Mu'akkada, right, to do a ghusl for Friday. But that's beside the point. If you want to do a ghusl for Friday, do you have
Yeah.
to make that as part of your intention for the Friday prayer, or do you just do a ghusl just with the intention to remove impurity?
The intention again is for whatever type of ghusl you're doing it. You know, the ghusl for Jummah, it is a sunnah, but if you're doing your ghusl for that reason, then fine. If you are in a state of junub and you want to make a ghusl for Jummah as well, the obligation will not override it, it'll include. If you make it for both, it'll be fine.
Shukran. Thank you.
Okay. Rilwan, there's the other opinion is that, is first they say, should you make it before, when you wash your hands and before you wash any, if your body is soiled with bodily fluids, should you make the intention after you've washed that, and then you wash your hands and then you make the intention? But again, it's a personal choice. There isn't no scholar will dictate as to when you make the intention. Does that help, Rilwan? Okay, thank you. Okay. Doing it all in one go, which is mu'alat, again, from beginning to end, like the same rule applies as in wudu. One limb shouldn't dry before the other in normal weather. We're not talking about extreme weather, but normal weather. The third obligation is dalk. Again, this is the whole body. The whole body. Again, if you need to use, a loofah or a brush or, a rope or handkerchief or something, that's fine. That will aid you. People use brushes to brush their back or, a loofah or something. And, the author, is saying you can ask your wife or, your female slave. A different world, isn't it? But if you are old and you need assistance, then it shouldn't be between your from your navel to your knee. So it can be above that, but not between your navel and knee. If you need assistance, you should be able to do that yourself. Yes, Tahmiz.
The does that include soapy water? or is that just
What the first washing?
yeah, when you say when you have to rub the body, does that water have to be, can it be like soapy water, or does it have to be like pure?
No, what you've got to understand is that when we began this whole book of purification, the only thing that purifies is pure water, and how our ulama understand soap itself. We don't consider they don't consider soap to be pure, because soap carries your dirt. It helps you to remove the dirt. So it in itself is not pure. So water is the thing that is going to purify you. So the first wash should be just with pure water, then apply whatever product you need to apply, and then wash it down off with pure water again. Your final wash, your whole body should be with just water, pure water. So if you're using shampoo or any other product, before you step out of the bath or shower, whatever you're doing, you should wash yourself down with just pure water, because that pure water is the one that purifies.
Thank you, Sheikh.
Yeah. That's fine. Bilal, the obligation muwalat is that one continuous action, the same understanding as in wudu. Same understanding as in wudu. One limb should not dry before the other. And it's an obligation that is done from one continuous action. If you need to pick a towel up, that that should not have any relevance to it, because it's very momentary. Okay. The fourth obligation is to the khalal of share. It's massaging the roots of your hair. Doesn't matter if your hair is thick or thin. It doesn't matter if the hair is of your beard or your head or any other than that. Usually sweat gathers at the roots of the hair. So you need to make sure that you have thoroughly washed. So that's what it means, that you massage with your fingertips the whole of your scalp and your face, and water should reach the skin under your hair, and it's an obligation. Also, under your arms and under your knees. I don't think people have hair under their knees, but the thing is that wherever skin will gather, you need to make sure that you wash it thoroughly. Ghusl. I mean, the sunan of ghusl. Those are, the four obligations of ghusl. So the intention, doing it all in one go, mualat or fawr. Then, dalk, making sure that water has reached all of the skin of the body. Then number 4, making sure that, you massage the roots of your hair and any other hair that you have on your body, making sure that the water has reached there. Yes, Zakaria.
With regards to water from the ocean, it's salty, so that's changed the taste of it. Can it still be used to purify?
No, it actually is detrimental to human skin. It dries and it's really bad for human skin.
So it can't be used for wudu and ghusl.
No, it can't be used for wudu or for ghusl. If you're on the ocean and you need to, and there isn't water, you do tayammum. In the 1980s, that's when I started traveling to Morocco. My first trip was 1987. We used to catch a ferry from Almeria in Spain to Morocco, and they would have these massive boulders in the prayer room to do tayammum with. But it's seawater is not good for human skin.
Barakallahu fiqh.
Well, yeah. So before we walk away from the fara'id of ghusl, the whole no, yeah, don't go there, Bilal. It's not an obligation to. You will pass your hand, but not to rub it hard. So even when you wash for say wudu, you will pass your hand over it, like dal, but rubbing it unless you're trying to wake up. Yes.
Sorry for another question, but as soon as we do ghusl, I'm guessing that our wudu is also done as well, or do we have to do wudu again?
What we're going to do is, we'll go through how Sidi Meyara has, Sidi Ibn Ashir has arranged it. He tells you the fard, then the sunan, then the recommendations, and I'll tell you at the end how it all comes together. Usually, I would be teaching you in my front room, and I would test you on wudu. I usually bring a jug and water and want to see how you make wudu. Well, I can't do that. But ghusl, no. There's inshallah. Okay. Bilal. It's not obligatory, no. Not to. The obligation of dalk is for the whole body, not specifically, Bilal, specifically the eye. It's for the whole skin. When the dalk is of the whole body, all the skin that is on your body, and not specifically. You would. They usually say, wherever the more, when you get to a certain age, you get wrinkles. So they will say, make sure that, water gets in between the wrinkles. So under your lips, under your nose, wherever, skin is, if people are, a bit more healthy than they should be, they have more folds than usual of skin. They should make sure that water reaches all of the skin. That's an obligation. Okay. Sunan of ghusl. Again, the sunan of ghusl are 4. This is verse 81, by the way. Sunan of ghusl are 4. The first one is the madmad. Again, it's not, gargling. It's not, making a lot of noise. It's putting water in your mouth and swirling it from one side of the jaw to the other. And the sunnah is only once. The second is to wash the hands first. Again, up to your wrists. This is before you put them into whatever you're storing water in. So this is the first washing of your hands. The third sunan is istinshaq. Again, this is once, making sure you put water up your nose, meaning sniffing water, and automatically, if you sniff it, you'll blow it out anyway. Again, this is once. The fourth sunan is that you make sure that you wipe inside of the ear, because outside of the ear and the folds of it, it's part of all of the skin, but inside of the ear, it's not an obligation, because it's not the general skin, it's inside. So the sunnah is to make sure that you wipe inside of your ears. The skin of the ears is part of the washing the whole skin. So those are the 4 sunan of ghusl. Any questions on these? Okay, no questions. We move on to the recommendations. This is verse 82 and 83. Again, the recommendations are 7. So there's more recommendations than there are, sunan. First of them is that you begin by washing your genitals, or any part of your body which is being soiled by discharge of bodily fluids. So because it's sunnah to wash your hands first, so after you've washed your hands, then you would wash your genitals and any part of the body that has been soiled by a discharge of bodily fluids. And once you've washed them thoroughly, you don't need to come back to them again. So if you need to use soap or whatever product you're using, if you wash them thoroughly, you don't need to wash your genitals after this. The second recommendation is to begin with the basmala. The third recommendation is to pour water thrice on the head. Yeah. Now, Sidi Khalil in the Tawdih, he says that the obligation is only to wash each limb once, and there is there's nothing of recommendation of washing each limb thrice apart from the head, which again is a recommendation. It's not a fard and it's not a sunnah. And this is after, I'm coming to Zakaria in a minute. This is after you have massaged the roots of your hair with your fingertips. Yes, Zakaria.
Sorry to cut you off, Sheikh. When they say washing the head 3 times, does this include washing, doing madmada and istinshaq and ears when you wash the head?
No. You see, the sunnah of the mudmada is only once, and the istinshaq and istinthar is only once.
Right.
But these are recommendations.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Shukran.
The fourth recommendation is that you give precedence in washing in ghusl, the limbs that are washed in ghusl. So you would wash, your arms, your face, and your head. You would give them precedence before washing other parts of the limb, other parts of your body. Again, the obligation is only to wash once. The recommendation is to give precedence in washing to the limbs that are washed in wudu. The fifth recommendation is not to waste water. Yeah? Not to waste water. What this means, again, is the same understanding as in wudu, that, each person, the context, where you are needs to be taken into consideration. It's like people who live in Mauritania, to them, the amount of water that is used, for instance, in the UK, would be, exorbitant, being extravagant, literally wasting water. But you see here, we don't have the same problems with water as, for instance, people who live in the desert. So the context needs to be taken into consideration. The sixth recommendation is that, you wash the top half of your body first, and then you wash the bottom half of the body. The seventh recommendation is you give preference in washing the right side first and then the left. So from, the virtuous things of ghusl would be, this is Ibn Bashir, is one of well-known jurists of the madhab. He says that you should wash, the top right first, and then you should then the left top, and then the right bottom, and then the right left. Okay. Any questions about the recommendations of wudu? Ghusl. Okay. Final two verses on, verse 83 and 85. You will begin washing your genitals, then you will stop from, touching with the palm or, the side of the palm, or, with your fingers. If you do touch them, then you will have to renew your wudu. Again, this is the same as, ghusl. Wudu. Same understanding as wudu. So you will, let me walk you through ghusl, where we bring, the fard, the sunan, and the recommendations together. So first, you will wash your hands. Then you will wash your genital. Again, the scenario is wudu for ritual impurity from junub. So the either you've had a discharge of semen, or there's been sexual intercourse. So you will wash your hands, then wash your genitals, wash with pure water, wash any filth off, then wash them with whatever, if you're using soap or any other product, and then wash it again, so you don't need to go back to them again. Then clean your teeth, swirl water, sniff water, blow it out, then wash your face, then your forearms, and then put water on your head and massage the roots of your head, and then pour water on your head 3 times. Then wash, the front and back, right side of your torso, and then front and back of the left side of the torso. Then the right leg and front and back, and then the left leg front and back. When you've finished, the last thing you do is wash your feet before you walk out. That's the fard of wudu. This will incorporate a wudu and a ghusl, as long as you don't touch your privates again. If you do touch them, then you will have to do wudu again. Yes, Bilal. About dulk. Okay, Bilal, if he has a power shower, he puts it to the highest setting, and make sure that he puts the water over every part of his body. The waswasa should be gone, because water will go everywhere. That's because people who suffer from waswasa, the best thing is that's what they do. Because either they get a brush or something, they put soap to it, or if they don't want to put soap, then rub every part of your body, just pour water down, or use the shower head to make sure that water goes every place, because the shower settings are really strong, so you won't even have to you would have to pass your hand once, but you will feel the water really strongly on your skin. The other way is you just go into the shower, take a normal shower as you take shower. Yeah. When you finish, make sure that the final wash is with pure water, and then you will do wudu. That's another way. But the way that the school does it, where it combines the recommended with the sunan and the fara'id, it's where you end up with wudu and you end up with ghusl. Okay. Any questions on how I've described the ghusl? Or are you okay? Final point. If you are doing a ghusl not of junub, if you, for instance, you normal everyday shower, and you want to incorporate, the wudu in the ghusl, then you have to wash all the limbs. So you would wash, the limbs that you wash in wudu, and you won't delay washing your feet. You will have to wash your feet and then, have your shower. Yes, Bilal. Okay. Yeah. Could you repeat your point of ghusl being enough for wudu to ensure? Okay. What you've got to do, it becomes, if you keep doing it long enough, it becomes like second nature. So when you walk into the shower or shower, you wash your privates, wash them thoroughly. The last and the first must be with pure water. Then again wash your hands. Then more or less do wudu. If it's from junub, then you can delay washing your feet. If it's not from junub, then you need to wash the feet all in one go, like you would do the actions of wudu. Then wash your whole body. Wash it once, it's fine. Then you can apply any product that you use. But what you've got to make sure is the final wash has to be with pure water, because only pure water purifies. So however you do it, you can just walk into a shower, take a regular shower, yeah, but your final wash has to be with pure water. And then if you haven't done wudu, you can do wudu afterwards, or you can incorporate the wudu like the madhab does. You wash your genitals, then do wudu, wash your feet, then take a regular shower. And then the final wash has to be with water. Yes, Zakaria.
Just a bit about that last point in terms of the final wash has to be with water. Let's say someone goes in, does the niyyah, does the ghusl, and completes everything,
Yeah,
and then in their mind they say that's the ghusl done.
yeah,
And then they wash with the product and
yes,
avoid touching their privates,
yes.
and then they obviously rinse themselves after that. Does that negate the ghusl?
No,
Right.
that's what I'm saying, that, your final rinse
Right.
is with water.
Right, but do you have to have the intention that that's part of the ghusl?
No, because your intention is for the ghusl. That's why you've gone into the shower.
Right, right,
So you don't need to worry. This is ghusl and this is not ghusl. You
right.
incorporate, because at the time of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they didn't have these various products that we have.
Mm-hmm.
They would just do it with water.
Right. Shukran.
Yeah, but keep in mind it's only water that purifies. That's why the final one has to be, because whatever product you apply, that the traces of that need to be removed.
Yeah, that makes sense. Barakallahu
Yeah.
feek.
Bilal, you don't make the niyyah for wudu, you make the niyyah for ghusl, because the understanding is the major will incorporate the minor. The minor will not incorporate the major. Does that make sense? Okay. Brilliant. Okay. Verse 86. Yeah. This is, what obligates ghusl. Ghusl becomes obligatory because of menstruation and bleeding after childbirth, emission of sperm, the penis penetrating the vagina, or penetration whatsoever. Yeah, those are the things that obligate ghusl. So Sidi Meyara says that here mention is made because we've finished talking about what's fard, sunan, and the recommendations for wuju. For ghusl. We begin here why the ghusl becomes an obligation. The causes are these four. So the first and second of these causes is the cessation of bleeding. So this is bleeding first from the monthly cycle of menstruation, and the second is nifas, which is post-birth bleeding. Just a point on this, a comment really. In South Asia, we've got this thing that once a woman gives birth, she needs to rest for 40 days. Only then she becomes clean and she starts praying again. That's a misnomer. This thing of 40 days or 60 days. No, as soon as the bleeding stops, she needs to take a ghusl, and the prayers become an obligation upon her. This thing of there are riwayats, 40 days, 60 days. No, the Shari hukum is that when the bleeding stops, they need to take a ghusl, and the obligation of prayer begins upon them. So that's first and second cause of the ghusl becoming an obligation. The second is ejaculation. This doesn't, and here we're talking about, ejaculation of sperm, and again, this is normal. The discharge has been because of a normal discharge, meaning that there was arousal, and then there was a discharge. I've never come across these cases, but these cases, these scenarios are mentioned in books of fiqh. So they say that if someone hits you, the shock of being hit, or being stung by a scorpio. So the shock of it. You ejaculate. There's a discharge of semen through shock. That's the best I can understand. This does not obligate ghusl. This will only obligate, wudu. So also, if if you scratch, a wound near your, genital, and that causes, a discharge, or riding a horse or camel, or normal riding. Again, if that causes a discharge of semen, these are exceptions to the rule. They will only obligate ghusl, not. They will obligate wudu, not ghusl. Yeah, they will only obligate wudu. Otherwise, a normal discharge of semen will obligate ghusl. Okay. The fourth cause is penetration. This literally means that the head of the penis penetrates the genitals of a human, other than a female, or a male, or dead, a corpse, discharge or no discharge. If there is penetration of the front or back, it will obligate a ghusl. Any questions on these four? Causes that obligate, ghusl. Okay. Number 87. As for the first two, intercourse is forbidden until the ghusl is made, and in the case of the last two, recitation of the Quran is forbidden. And verse 88. And in the case of all four, entering the mosque is forbidden. And if you have been negligent, then as in the case of wudu, but you do not have to repeat washing the parts already washed. So, the first two are, major, wani hadath al-akbar, major demands, major, subhanallah wa bihamdihi, ghusl. Yeah, and this is from menstrual bleeding and post-birth bleeding. Both of these there's prohibition of intercourse, and this prohibition will continue until the ghusl has been done. So it is not permitted that there is sexual intercourse with a woman who is bleeding in a monthly cycle or bleeding from post-birth bleeding, and there is general unanimity, a general agreement of scholarship on this. And also, once the bleeding has stopped, it will continue until the ghusl has been done, and that's the mashhur position. It's practically common sense. Yeah, it's practically common sense. As to they are where was it? They're also وَالْآخِرِينَ قُرْآنًا حَلًّا. They are not stopped. The mashhur position on women who are in their monthly cycle, or from post-birth bleeding. This whole masla now, I'll give you my understanding of this in a minute. So when women are in their monthly cycle, menstrual bleeding or post-birth bleeding, they are not stopped from reciting the Quran. And the ruling on this is that, if they are people who are teaching the Quran or learning the Quran, so if they're students who are learning the Quran, or if they're teachers who are teaching the Quran, this does not stop them from continuing to teach or to learn in the period of their menstrual bleeding or their post-birth bleeding. This whole masla now, modern technology has made it defunct. Now, how do you think that is? Anybody want to have a go? No?
We can recite the Quran through our phones and the
That's
computer.
it. Yeah. So, the whole masla is defunct. Because there's, alhamdulillah, it's still in the books. But, our phones, our tablets, they can recite. There was no prohibition from them in that period from reciting them anyway, but modern technology has made it more easier for them.
Or I guess to clarify, Sheikh, we should say that they can touch the mushaf on the phone.
They're not touching the mushaf, real one. They're touching the phone. They're not touching the mushaf. They're touching the phone. And touching the phone doesn't require wudu. But if they are students, if they're learning the Quran or teaching the Quran, menstrual bleeding does not stop them from teaching or learning. That's the mashhur opinion of the school. Yes, Tahmiz.
Their students or teachers, is it also include that they can touch the Quran or they cannot?
Repeat it again.
So if they are students or teachers, can they touch the Quran or is it just only recitation?
It's not a problem because they're teaching it. You know how they learn? Because historically in Muslim countries, they write it on pieces of wood. Yeah? The prohibition is once their bleeding ceases, yeah, until they take the ghusl, they are prohibited from touching it, reciting it. Yeah, and until they take, if the male or female are in the state of junub, they are prohibited from going into the mosque. There's a prohibition till they take the ghusl. In Muslim countries, historical, quarters, you'll find that the only access to running water was the mosque water supply. So if the situation is in that, then the man can go and get water. But what he does is he does tayammum, then he goes and gets water, and then he takes the ghusl. Yes, Zachary.
So it's not clear from the text whether it's in terms of the reciting the Quran, does it refer to the actual recitation, or does it refer to the actual touching the Quran? So let's say when it says and the last two prevent from reciting the Arabic Quran,
Yeah.
does that mean after one has an ejaculation or has sexual intercourse, then they're prohibited from touching the Quran, or they're prohibited from reciting in general, even from memory?
No, wait, from the text you'll find that it says وَالْأَوَّلُونَ مَنَهُمَ الْوَطِّ إِلَى غُسْلٍ. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that goes back to موجبة حيض نفاس الإنزال
Yep.
وغيبك مرة بفرج إسجال. So that prohibition, yeah,
Yep.
is إلى الغسل. So those are people who are in the state of junub.
Yep, that's for the first two. What about the akharin, Quran and like the last two prevent?
What you find
Yeah.
is that the well-known opinion is they don't recite Quran. They
In
could,
general.
they could, for instance, because the time-wise it's so short. Because as soon as you're able to, you get up and go and take ghusl.
Yep.
So you wouldn't bother yourself, to recite Quran.
Right.
Yeah. The general practice, I don't think it's over the top, but it's general practice. If you can, we're going to move on to tayammum in a minute. Keep a stone with you next to your bed. So if you are in the state of junub, you do tayammum and you can do certain stuff before you do ghusl.
Shukran.
Yeah. Okay. So when you're in the state of junub, male or female, they can't enter the mosque. Women who are in the state of in the monthly cycle, they can teach. Again, they will not be allowed to teach in the mosque because they should have separate places where they teach. Where they're teaching in the mosque, they will not be allowed to enter the mosque. Because that is, for male and female. If they're in the state of junub, they can't enter the mosque. Okay. In your ghusl, if you remember you've not washed a limb, as soon as you remember, you just go and wash that limb. You do not need to, start from the beginning to the end. For instance, you're drying yourself and you remember I haven't washed one foot or one leg or something. You will just wash that. Then you'll carry on. You wouldn't have to go from the beginning. And it's the same understanding as if you're doing wudu. You're talking about if you, as soon as you remember, If you're close, you will keep the order. If it is too long, then you will just wash that limb. Okay. I've come to the end of the section on ghusl. If anybody's got any questions on ghusl, inshallah, now's a good time. Okay. We move on to tayammum. This is the section on tayammum. Now, the section on tayammum is longer than wudu and ghusl. And there's a reason for it as well, inshallah. I don't think we'll be able to finish it today, but we'll begin it. Section on tayammum, verse 89. Verse 89. Section, if you fear illness or there is a lack of water, then do tayammum instead of. لخوف ضر أو عدم ما عود من الطهارة التيمم. So if there's fear or harm or there's no water, then replace your purification with tayammum. That's literally what verse 89 is saying. So do people know the story behind how tayammum began? Anybody want to share? Yes, Zachary.
Is it that one Sahabi after a war had a wound, and the group of Sahaba were together, and they told him to do a ghusl or a wudu, I can't remember which one, and then he died from it, and then they went to the Prophet, and he said, yeah, they shouldn't have done that. Is that the story?
No, there's another one.
Right.
No, that's a good one.
I don't know the other one, sorry.
Anybody else? Yes, Mustaqim.
Is it the incident with Aisha radiallahu anha when they were in an expedition and it happened that they didn't have access to water? And was it then that this mas'ala of tayammum came up? I don't know the exact details, but I'm paraphrasing.
Yes, there's it involves a piece of personal jewelry of Sayyidah Aisha, salamun alayha. They stopped and they couldn't find, when they were about to leave, Sayyidah Aisha, salamun alayha, she couldn't find her favorite necklace. And they started looking for the necklace, and sun came down and they didn't have any, sunset, and they didn't have any water to do wudu, and the ayah of tayammum came down. When they gave up hope of, when they prayed and they still couldn't find the necklace, they left her. And when she gave up, she sat on the camel, and the camel stood, and the necklace was under the camel. But that's how the story is. Okay. So the ayah in question is in Surah Baqarah 267. Ayah 200 and, sorry, no, not this. Not 267. This is a different ayah. The reference for this, you should still make a note of this ayah anyway. The meaning, what does tayammum mean? Because Shara'an, it means that, you purify yourself with something found on the surface of the earth. But what does it mean? So linguistically, it means qasd, that you aim. So tayammum linguistically means to aim. And in Surah Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in 200 and ayah 267, وَلَا تَيَمَّمُوا الْخَبِيثِ. So if I literally translate this, it means don't make tayammum with filth. Yeah? Don't make tayammum. لا تيمموا al-khabith. But here, the word tayammum is used in the linguistic sense, not in the Shara'i sense. So here the meaning of the ayah is don't aim for filth. Don't aim. So the linguistic meaning of tayammum is to aim. Yeah. So when you aim to whatever you are doing tayammum with, the intention is always, the aim is istabaha. Because when we do ghusl or wudu, we make the intention to rafa al-hadas, that to remove impurity, be it minor or major, is to remove major impurity or minor impurity. So the understanding of the madhab is that tayammum does not remove impurity. It permits you to worship. So you aim to purify, to be permitted to worship. So the Shara'i definition is to purify, turabiya yastamil. It's to purify with something found on the surface of the earth, with which you wipe your face and hands, to be permitted to do what you were forbidden to do or prohibited to do, because you do not have water with you. Okay, so in this section there are 6 subsections. So in the section of tayammum, we are looking at 6 subsections that we're going to be covering. So the first thing we're going to look at is the cause, where you can't, what causes will lead to tayammum. Where you can't find water, you will do tayammum. The second section is what you can do with tayammum. The third section is what you can do tayammum with and what you can't do tayammum with. The fourth section will cover the obligations of tayammum, the sunan of tayammum, and the recommendations of tayammum. The fifth section will deal with the time constraint of tayammum and what fara'id you can do with tayammum. The sixth section will deal with what invalidates a tayammum. Yeah, what validates and what does not validate. Okay, so we move to the first section. So tayammum, it's not in place of water, because there's it's actually a long running debate within Muslim scholarship. Does tayammum place Is it badal? Is it in place of water purification? You know, when you are doing soil purification, is it in place of? Again, with us, it's not, because otherwise we wouldn't make the intention to, istabaha, that you be permitted. What is attached to it is there's a fear. So there are two factors. There's fear and there's harm. Yeah. So there's fear in, making use of water, or there's harm attached to making use of water. Or there's no water at all. So those are, the two scenarios you're looking at. There's fear or harm attached to use of water, or there is no water at all. And there is no difference made if tayammum is, for wudu or ghusl. Yeah, you can make tayammum for wudu and you can make tayammum for ghusl. Again, for ghusl, we're talking about junub. And again, you also from menstrual bleeding, the ghusl for that, and for post-childbirth bleeding. So the fear, let's look at, the fear. Here, tayammum for fear is that, you'll fall sick, or it will increase the period of you getting, if you're already sick, if you make use of water, it will, make the recovery longer. So there is, so you will make tayammum. Ibn Wahab, the great Imam and student of Imam Malik, he says that, you can make it, if there's a plague, wudu can be made. I mean, they can do tayammum. If they are, sailing on a boat, because, there's a shortage of water, they can do tayammum. Or if they use water, it will harm them. Ibn Qasar is, one of the great Usuli Imams from, the Baghdadi school. He says that, if you fear that you will catch, influenza, or you will, you have a temperature, then you can do tayammum. Also, if someone who is already sick, they cannot stand due to the fever, because they are sweating from the fever, they can pray from the sitting position by doing tayammum. Because there's a fear that, if they stand, it will, dry the fever and might delay his recovery. Also, if there is, they will make tayammum if they've got water, but there's fear that if they use the water to drink, they won't have enough to do wudu. sorry, it's the other way around. If they do wudu, there wouldn't be enough water to drink. So in that scenario, they will do tayammum. Yes, Mustahkin. Who was the second Imam? Okay, his name's Abdullah bin Wahab. Abdullah bin Wahab. From the students of Imam Malik, this one, Imam Abdullah bin Wahab was an Imam in Hadith before he came to Imam Malik. And quite a few of his works in Hadith are in print. He had a Jami, he had a Kitab al-Qadr. He has his own Muwatta. There's about they found a manuscript of just Kitabul, I think of Juma, and there's other chapters added to it. It's very small work, but his Kitabul Tafsir, he has is a 3-volume work. Is on ulum on the Quran and the ulum al-Quran. Quite a few of his works that there's a tafsir of the Muwatta, which there's a manuscript of it in Tunis. Sheikh al-Islam, Ibn Ashur, he mentions it. It hasn't been, to date, been edited and brought into print yet. But as an Imam, he as a Hadith scholar, he's a Imam in his own right. Abdullah bin Wahab. One of the unique nature of his transmission from Imam Malik radhiyallahu anhu is that he would date his notes. So the opinions that we have from Abdullah bin Wahab, he would note them so you would know which precedes the other or which abrogates the other. And this is one of the reasons that Imam Abhari, the great Baghdadi scholar, he preferred Imam Abdullah bin Wahab over Imam Ibn al-Qasim, because Imam Ibn al-Qasim is, the Imam in fiqh that the school goes to. But Imam Abdullah bin Wahab was again a hadith scholar, and there was that precision of his notation, which is a tragedy. We don't have enough of those works that have reached us. Okay. So if there's, you will do tayammum. If there's a fear of thirst, meaning that, if the water is used for wudu, there wouldn't be enough left to drink, which there might be a fear of death or harm. Likewise, you will do tayammum if there's a fear for your livestock. Here, Ibn Hajib, again, Ibn Hajib is one of the great Usuli Imams of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. He's a great Maliki Imam, but his works on Usul, there isn't, an Usuli scholar from the non-Malikis who have not commentated on his work. So he says that if there is, a conjecture, you think that you will be thirsty, or those with him, of his livestock, then you would do tayammum. That's the end of it. That's the end of the quote. Ibn Hajib says, Sidi Mayara, he says, if he's got dogs or pigs with him, he will kill them, but he will not waste water for their sake. Again, I would put my neck out and say that, they're still God's creatures. Also, you will do tayammum if there is fear for yourself, meaning that you might be robbed, or you might be attacked by wild animals. And likewise, there is a fear for your wealth. Yeah. So, inshallah, we will stop here because we've come to the end of, first time, and we will carry on, from here next week, inshallah. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.